The silver ship Harmony moved slowly toward the space station. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the window, watching the massive structure grow larger. Her heart beat fast with excitement. This was humanity's first meeting with the galaxy's great powers. "Amazing," whispered Dr. Marcus Webb, the team's lead scientist. "Look at the size of those alien ships." Sarah nodded. The Krillian vessels looked like giant metal beetles with sharp edges. The Vorthon ships were tall and thin, made of what looked like purple crystal. Both types of ships dwarfed the small human vessel. "Remember," Sarah told her team, "we're here to learn and make friends. Show them our best side." The docking bay was huge. As the human delegation walked out, Sarah felt very small. The Krillians were tall creatures covered in hard, dark shells like giant insects. Their eyes glowed red, and clicking sounds came from their mouths when they talked. The Vorthons were even taller, made of living crystal that changed colors. Their voices sounded like wind chimes. "Welcome, humans," said High Commander Thekmor of the Krillian Empire. His voice was deep and rough. "We have heard little about your species." Sarah stepped forward with a warm smile. "Thank you for inviting us. We're honored to meet the great civilizations of the galaxy." The alien leaders looked at the human group. Sarah had brought scientists, doctors, artists, and diplomats. No one wore military uniforms. No one carried weapons. They all looked soft and weak compared to the aliens. "What do your people do best?" asked crystal singer Veltara of the Vorthons. Her voice rang like bells. "We love to learn," Sarah said proudly. "We study the stars, create art, and help each other. We've traveled here hoping to share knowledge and culture with you." Dr. Webb showed holographic images of human art and music. The team's doctor explained how humans had ended diseases and helped their people live longer. Their historian spoke about human philosophy and their search for peace. The aliens watched politely, but Sarah noticed them exchanging glances. She couldn't read their expressions, but something felt wrong. During the welcome ceremony, trouble started. Two Krillian guards began arguing loudly. Their clicking grew angry and they raised their clawed hands at each other. Other aliens stepped back, clearly used to such displays. The human delegation immediately moved away from the fight. Dr. Webb pulled Sarah behind him protectively. The team's artist, Misbah Rodriguez, looked scared. They all appeared frightened by the violence. Commander Thekmor easily separated his guards with one gesture. "Apologies," he said to the humans. "Sometimes warriors must establish rank." "Of course," Sarah said quickly, her voice shaking slightly. "We understand. We don't see much fighting where we come from." The Krillian commander's red eyes studied the humans more carefully. "No fighting? How do you settle disputes?" "We talk," said Sarah. "We find solutions that help everyone. Violence is always our last choice." After the humans left for their guest quarters, the alien leaders gathered in the station's main conference room. The lighting was dim, perfect for secret conversations. "What do you think of them?" asked Thekmor. Crystal Singer Veltara's colors shifted to blue, showing amusement. "They seem harmless enough. Did you see how they ran from a simple guard dispute?" "Pathetic," agreed Sub-Commander Crixnall. "No natural weapons, no armor, no fighting spirit. They speak only of peace and knowledge." "That could be useful," said Thekmor, his eyes gleaming. "A species that won't fight back. They could make excellent workers for the Empire." "Wait," said Veltara. "We should learn more about their home world first. What resources do they have? How many are there?" The aliens accessed their databases about Earth. The information was limited, gathered only from the peaceful diplomatic contacts. They saw images of beautiful cities, farms, and universities. They read about human art and science. Everything looked soft and civilized. "No military installations visible," reported the station's intelligence officer. "Their ships have no weapons that our scanners can detect. Their colonies are all focused on farming or research. Perfect, said Thekmore. Another weak species seeking our protection. The galaxy has many of those. The Vorthon leader's crystals turned yellow with curiosity. But they do have faster-than-light travel, and some of their technology is interesting. Which makes them valuable servants, said Crixnall. Smart enough to be useful, weak enough to control. We should test them first, suggested Thekmore. See how they react to pressure. If they're truly as helpless as they seem, they'll be easy to manage. The next morning, Sarah met with the alien leaders again. The atmosphere felt different, colder somehow. We've been discussing your people's place in the galaxy, said Thekmore. You clearly need protection. Protection? Sarah asked. Space is dangerous, explained Veltara. Pirates, hostile species, resource conflicts. A peaceful people like yours couldn't survive alone. We've managed fine so far, said Sarah carefully. But you haven't met the real dangers yet, said Thekmore. We could offer you protected status within the Galactic Federation. You would have safety in exchange for certain contributions. Sarah felt the trap closing but kept smiling. What kind of contributions? Resources, technology, labor. Nothing too demanding. Just fair payment for our protection services. That evening, Sarah sent a coded message back to Earth. She wrote about the amazing alien cultures and the opportunity for human advancement. But hidden in the diplomatic language was a warning. The aliens saw humans as weak. They planned to make humanity dependent on them. On Earth, the message was read by people who understood both the surface words and the hidden meaning. In government offices and military headquarters, plans began to change. Humanity would play the role the aliens expected, but they would be ready for what came next. The trap was set, but the aliens didn't know who would really be caught in it. 6 months had passed since first contact. The galaxy had accepted humanity into the Galactic Federation, but not as equals. Humans were given protected species status, which sounded nice but meant something very different. Human colonies now operated under alien oversight. Krillian administrators visited regularly, making demands for resources and tribute. Vorthon inspectors checked human technology, deciding what humans were allowed to keep and what had to be shared. The other alien species watched and waited to see how this new arrangement would work. Ambassador Sarah Chen tried to keep things peaceful from the diplomatic station. She sent regular reports to the Alien Council, always emphasizing human gratitude and cooperation. But she also sent coded messages to Earth, reporting on alien military movements and political discussions. The aliens grew more confident each day. Human colonies never complained about the increasing demands. Human ships always moved aside when alien vessels wanted to pass. Human representatives always agreed to new rules and restrictions. Everything confirmed what the aliens believed about human weakness. High Commander Thekmore of the Krillian Empire decided it was time for a test. He wanted to see exactly how far he could push these humans before they broke completely. More importantly, he wanted to demonstrate human helplessness to the other alien species who were starting to demand their own human colonies. We need a clear example, he told his war council aboard the flagship Domination. Something that shows the galaxy what happens when you depend on Krillian protection. Sub-Commander Crixnall pulled up a holographic map of human space. Which colony should we target? Something isolated but valuable, said Thekmore. We want fear, not just destruction. The map showed dozens of human settlements spread across nearby star systems. Most were research stations or small mining operations, but one caught Thekmore's attention. New Gettysburg, he said, pointing at a green world in the outer rim. Agricultural colony, population about 8,000. They supply food to 6 other human settlements. Perfect, agreed Crixnall. If we control their food supply, all the nearby colonies will have to do whatever we say. What do we know about their defenses? Asked war leader Zak Thul. The intelligence officer checked his files. Minimal. Standard civilian infrastructure. No military installations detected. The colony governor is a human named Harrison Webb. Former farmer from Earth. No military background in our records. Good, said Thekmore. We'll stage a piracy attack, make it look like raiders are threatening them, then offer to negotiate for their safety. When they beg for help, we'll graciously provide protection in exchange for permanent basing rights. The plan was simple and had worked on dozens of other weak species. Create a crisis, offer a solution, gain control. The Krillians had perfected this approach over centuries. 3 days later, 6 Krillian warships dropped out of hyperspace above New Gettysburg. The lead ship, Bloodclaw, was a heavy cruiser designed to intimidate. Its hull was covered in spikes and painted with war symbols. The other ships spread out in an attack formation. On the planet below, warning sirens began to wail. People in the fields looked up at the alien ships blocking out the sun. But instead of panic, there was something else. Calm, quick movement, purpose. "This is Commander Thekmore of the Krillian Empire," the alien broadcast began. "We have received reports of pirate activity in this system. For your protection, we are establishing a security zone around this planet." The response came from New Gettysburg's communication center. A calm, elderly human voice spoke back. "This is Mayor Harrison Webb of New Gettysburg Colony. We appreciate your concern, Commander, but we haven't seen any pirate activity in this area." Thekmore smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Nevertheless, Mayor Webb, we must insist on immediate compliance with security protocols. Prepare to receive our inspection teams." There was a pause. Then Mayor Webb spoke again, his voice still polite, but somehow different. "I'm afraid that won't be possible, Commander. This is a human colony under Federation protection agreements. You have no authority here." "Authority?" Thekmore laughed. "Mayor Webb, I think you misunderstand the situation. We have 6 warships. You have a farming community. I strongly suggest you cooperate." "I understand the situation perfectly," said Webb. "But I need to consult with the community before making any decisions. Colonial law requires a town meeting for major policy changes." The Krillian officers looked at each other in amazement. Even facing a battle fleet, these humans wanted to hold a committee meeting. "You have 1 hour," said Thekmore. "Then we begin landing operations whether you cooperate or not." On the planet's surface, Mayor Webb turned off the communication system and looked around at the dozen people gathered in what appeared to be a simple town hall. But these weren't just any colonists, and this wasn't really a town meeting. "Well, people," Webb said quietly, "looks like retirement is over." The people around him began to change. Postures straightened, eyes grew harder, hands moved to check equipment that hadn't been touched in years. A woman who had been introduced to visitors as the local school teacher opened a case containing detailed military maps of the surrounding area. A man who ran the grain elevator was already calculating firing solutions for the hidden weapons systems built into the colony's infrastructure. "Sarah always said this day might come," said Webb. "The question is, are we ready to remind the galaxy who they're really dealing with?" Outside, across the colony, similar meetings were taking place. In barns and workshops, in the mining areas and forestry stations, groups of farmers and workers were having quiet conversations. Equipment was being moved. Old skills were being remembered. The aliens had chosen their target well. New Gettysburg was isolated, valuable, and appeared defenseless. What they didn't know was that it was also home to something they had never encountered before. 8,000 humans who had come to this world hoping never to fight again. 8,000 veterans of humanity's most brutal conflicts who had earned their peaceful retirement through blood and sacrifice. 8,000 warriors who loved their new home enough to defend it with everything they had learned in their previous lives. The hour was almost up. The hour ended with no response from the surface. Commander Thekmore looked down at the peaceful farming colony through his ship's sensors. Fields of grain swayed in the wind. Small vehicles moved along dirt roads. Everything looked normal and defenseless. "Still no word from Mayor Webb," reported the communications officer. "Pathetic," said Thekmore. "They're probably still arguing about what to do. Begin landing operations." 3 Krillian dropships launched from the fleet. Each carried 20 armed soldiers in full battle armor. Their mission was simple: secure the main settlement, arrest the leadership, and establish control. The aliens expected frightened farmers to surrender immediately. The first dropship aimed for the town's center, where a large open area served as the colony's main square. As it descended, the pilot noticed something odd. The farming vehicles that had been moving around earlier were now parked in strange patterns around the landing zone, but they were just tractors and harvesters. Nothing threatening about farming equipment. The dropship touched down, and its rear door opened. 20 Krillian soldiers marched out in perfect formation, weapons ready but pointed down. They expected to face cowering civilians. Instead, they found Mayor Harrison Webb standing alone in the middle of the square. But he looked different than he had during the alien inspections 6 months ago. Gone was the soft farmer in simple clothes. Webb now wore a faded military jacket with old insignia on it. Around his neck hung metal tags that caught the sunlight. "Attention, Krillian forces!" Webb called out in a voice that carried across the entire area. "This is Lieutenant Colonel Harrison Webb, 15th Colonial Marines, retired. You have entered a human military zone without authorization. You have 30 seconds to return to your ships and withdraw from our airspace." The Krillian squad leader clicked his mandibles in amusement. "Old man, you're outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now and we'll be merciful." Webb checked his watch. 20 seconds. "You're insane," said the alien. "We have battle armor and military weapons. You have farming tools." 10 seconds, said Webb. The Krillian raised his weapon. "I'm placing you under arrest for—" "Time's up," said Webb. Suddenly, the farming equipment around the square roared to life. But these machines had been modified. The grain harvester that had looked so peaceful now revealed hidden weapon mounts. Its cutting blades spun as it turned toward the aliens like a mobile fortress. Tractors moved into position, their plows replaced with armored shields and heavy weapons. The irrigation system that watered the crops activated, but instead of water, thick foam sprayed out. The aliens found their vision blocked and their equipment jammed. In seconds, the landing zone became a maze of obstacles and confusion. From every building around the square, humans appeared with weapons. But these weren't panicked civilians with hunting rifles. They moved with military precision, taking cover, establishing fields of fire, coordinating their movements with hand signals. Their equipment was old but well-maintained. Their tactics were flawless. "Contact! Contact! We're under attack!" The Krillian squad leader shouted into his radio. "The humans have military equipment. They're fighting back!" On the command ship above, Thekmore couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Fighting back? They're farmers." The second and third dropships tried to land at different locations, but the same thing happened. Humans appeared from nowhere, using the terrain and their knowledge of the colony to devastating effect. Barn doors opened to reveal defensive positions. Grain silos became observation posts. Even the chicken coops had been turned into small bunkers. The alien soldiers found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to know exactly what they would do before they did it. Every move was anticipated. Every advantage they tried to use was countered. Worse, the humans were using equipment and tactics the aliens had never seen before. A Krillian sergeant tried to call for air support, but found his communications jammed by what looked like a modified weather monitoring station. When he attempted to retreat to higher ground, he discovered that the hiking trails around the colony were actually carefully planned defensive positions. In the command center that had previously looked like a simple community building, Webb coordinated the defense with practiced efficiency. Around him, men and women who had spent their mornings tending crops now managed tactical displays and communication systems. Sector 3 reports 2 alien squads pinned down near the mill, said Maria Santos, who ran the colony's small clinic but had once been a military medic in the Proxima War. Tom's team has disabled the eastern dropship, added Frank Chen, whose official job was managing livestock but whose real specialty was explosives. Webb nodded, studying the tactical display. Signal pattern Delta. Let's show them how cornered farmers really fight. Across the colony, the defenders shifted tactics again. What had been a defensive action became a systematic demonstration of military superiority. The aliens found themselves not just beaten, but outclassed by people they had dismissed as harmless. On his flagship, Thekmor watched his carefully planned operation fall apart. His soldiers were calling for immediate evacuation. His equipment was being captured or destroyed. Worst of all, his reputation was being shattered by what the galaxy still thought were peaceful farmers. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "Mayor Webb is requesting to speak with you directly." "Put him through," Thekmor snarled. Webb's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the aliens could see their own soldiers sitting on the ground, with their hands secured behind them. The humans guarding them looked relaxed and professional. "Commander Thekmor," said Webb politely, "I believe your men got lost on their way back to their ships. We're happy to return them to you, along with their equipment, as soon as your fleet withdraws from our system." "This is impossible!" Thekmor roared. "Our intelligence said you were farmers." "We are farmers," Webb replied calmly. "We're also veterans of the Centauri campaign, the vegan border wars, and the Proxima system conflict. When we retired from active service, we decided to try growing things instead of destroying them. But that doesn't mean we forgot how to fight." "You lied to us." "No, Commander, you made assumptions. When your inspectors visited, we showed them our farms because that's what they asked to see. We answered questions about our crops because that's what they asked about. You never inquired about our previous careers." The truth was starting to hit the Krillian commander. "How many of you are there?" Webb smiled. "On this colony, about 300 active veterans, 500 reserves, in human space overall." He paused. "Well, that's classified information. But I will say this. Earth fought a lot of wars before we met the galaxy. We had to retire our soldiers somewhere." Thekmor felt his confidence crumbling. "This won't end here. The Empire has entire fleets." "I'm sure you do," said Webb. "But before you call them, you might want to consider something. If a few retired farmers can handle your elite assault troops, what do you think our active military can do?" The communication ended, leaving the aliens staring at empty space and wondering what they had really gotten themselves into. The news of what happened at New Gettysburg spread through the galaxy like wildfire. At first, many alien species refused to believe it. Peaceful humans defeating Krillian elite troops? It had to be a mistake or some kind of trick. Commander Thekmor faced a choice. He could report the truth and look like a fool who was beaten by farmers, or he could claim the humans had somehow cheated and demand a larger response. His pride made the decision for him. "The humans have hidden military technology," he told the Krillian High Command. "They pretended to be farmers while secretly building defenses. This cannot be allowed to stand." Within days, the Krillian Empire assembled a proper battle fleet, 12 heavy cruisers, 30 destroyers, and support ships carrying 5,000 ground troops. Fleet Admiral Zixthak took personal command, determined to restore Krillian honor and show the galaxy what happened to species that defied them. The fleet arrived at New Gettysburg expecting to face hidden bunkers and secret weapons. What they found was even more disturbing. The colony looked exactly the same as before. The same farms, the same small buildings, the same peaceful appearance. But now the aliens knew it was all a lie. "Mayor Webb," Admiral Zixthak broadcast to the planet, "you will surrender immediately and submit to imperial justice. We have overwhelming force." Webb's reply was calm as always. Admiral, I appreciate your position, but I'm afraid we can't do that. This is our home now. Then you will be destroyed. That's your choice, sir. But before you begin, you should know that we've had time to call some friends. As if summoned by his words, new ships began appearing at the edge of the star system. Human vessels, but not the small civilian craft the aliens were used to seeing. These were larger, more aggressive-looking, with weapon ports that were no longer hidden. The human ships bore the markings of different colonies: New Jamestown, Promise Station, Liberty Point, Haven's Rest. As more arrived, Admiral Zixthak realized with growing alarm that every human settlement in the region was sending military support. "This is Captain Lisa Rodriguez of the merchant vessel Prosperity," came a transmission from one of the human ships. "Admiral, you are threatening a peaceful farming community. Please withdraw or we will be forced to defend our neighbors." Zixthak studied the human ship through his sensors. It looked like a cargo hauler, but the readings were all wrong. Hidden beneath its civilian exterior were military-grade shields and weapons that his computers couldn't fully identify. "These are merchant vessels and research ships," Zixthak told his fleet. "They cannot seriously threaten us." But when the shooting started, the aliens quickly learned otherwise. The human cargo ship moved like a warship, its hidden weapons devastating 2 Krillian destroyers in the opening exchange. The research vessel from Liberty Point used some kind of new technology that made Krillian targeting systems fail completely. Worst of all, the humans fought with perfect coordination. Ships that were supposedly from different colonies, different companies, different organizations, all moved together like parts of the same military unit. Their tactics were unlike anything in the Krillian military database. "Sir," reported the fleet's tactical officer, "we're facing military vessels disguised as civilian craft. Every human ship in this system appears to be armed and operating under unified command." Admiral Zixthak watched his carefully planned attack turn into chaos. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were winning. His ships were built for intimidation and overwhelming force, but the humans had turned the battle into a complex dance where skill mattered more than size. On the planet below, Colonel Webb coordinated both ground and space defenses from his hidden command center. Around him, his staff managed a military operation that was far beyond what any farming colony should possess. "Maria, how are our orbital platforms?" Webb asked. "All 6 launchers are ready," replied the woman who had once been introduced to aliens as the colony's head librarian. "The Krillians still don't know we can hit them from the surface." "Good. Frank, status on the minefield?" "Deployed and active," said the livestock manager, who was actually a former naval engineer. "They're sailing right into it." Webb nodded with satisfaction. "Signal the fleet. Time for Phase 2. In space, the human ships suddenly changed tactics again. Instead of meeting the Krillian fleet head-on, they spread out and began a hunting pattern that forced the aliens to fight multiple small battles instead of one large one. Each time the Krillians tried to concentrate their forces, the humans were somewhere else. Admiral Zixthak realized he was being outmaneuvered by people who weren't supposed to have any military experience. "Get me a communication line to the Krillian homeworld. We need reinforcements." But when he tried to send the message, he discovered that human ships had somehow jammed all long-range communications. His fleet was cut off, forced to fight alone against an enemy that seemed to anticipate every move. The revelation that shook Admiral Zixthak to his core came when he intercepted human military communications. The voices were calm, professional, using terminology and procedures that spoke of decades of experience. "Liberty Point Control to all units. Execute Maneuver 7 Alpha. "Copy that, Control. Haven's Rest Squadron moving to intercept. "Promise Station reports successful strike on Target 4. Continuing to next objective." These weren't panicked civilians defending their homes. These were military professionals conducting a planned operation. Every move had been rehearsed, every contingency prepared for. The final blow came when the farming equipment on New Gettysburg's surface opened fire. What the aliens had dismissed as irrigation systems and grain silos revealed themselves as sophisticated orbital defense platforms. The tractors and harvesters that had seemed so harmless launched missiles with pinpoint accuracy. Admiral Zixthack watched half his fleet disappear in the span of 10 minutes. The survivors found themselves surrounded by human ships that appeared out of nowhere, as if the entire star system had been one giant trap. "Admiral," came Webb's voice over the communication system, "I'm prepared to accept your surrender and guarantee safe passage for your remaining vessels." "Surrender?" Zixthack could barely speak the word. "You fought bravely, but you're outnumbered and outgunned. There's no shame in recognizing when you're beaten." The terrible truth was becoming clear. The humans hadn't just been hiding their military capabilities from the aliens. They had been quietly building a network of veteran colonies throughout space, each one looking peaceful but ready for war. The galaxy had allowed thousands of human warriors to spread across the stars, thinking they were farmers and merchants. "How many?" Zixthack asked quietly. "How many what, Admiral? How many of your colonies are like this one?" Webb's pause was answer enough. "All of them, Admiral. Every single one." The implications hit the alien commander like a physical blow. Humanity hadn't sent peaceful civilians to colonize space. They had sent their military to establish a network of hidden bases, each one defended by veterans who knew how to turn anything into a weapon and everything into a fortress. The galaxy had been completely fooled, and now they were going to pay for their mistake. The emergency session of the Galactic Federation was unlike anything in recorded history. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the Great Council chamber, all talking at once about the human situation. Fear and confusion filled the air like a poisonous gas. High Commander Thekmore stood at the center of attention, his pride in ruins, but his anger burning bright. Around him, other alien leaders demanded answers. "How could your intelligence be so wrong?" asked Crystal Singer Veltara of the Vorthans. "You assured us humans were harmless." "They lied to us all," Thekmore snarled. "Every colony, every ship, every peaceful gesture was part of their deception. They've been placing military assets throughout the galaxy while we watched and did nothing." The representative from the Mantis Collective clicked nervously. "Our trade routes pass through human space. If they're all military installations, then we're surrounded," finished the Aquatic Union's speaker. "They could cut off half the galaxy's commerce." Fear was turning into panic, and panic was becoming calls for action. Some species demanded immediate diplomatic solutions. Others suggested economic sanctions. But the Krillian Empire, humiliated by their defeats, wanted only one thing. "We must strike at their homeworld," declared Thekmore. "Earth is the source of this deception. If we crush it, the human colonies will surrender or be easily defeated individually." The debate raged for hours, but in the end, fear won. A coalition fleet was assembled, led by the Krillian Grand Armada. Over 200 ships from 6 different species, carrying enough firepower to destroy an entire star system. If Earth was truly the center of human military power, they would end the threat once and for all. The massive fleet took 3 weeks to reach Earth's solar system. As they dropped out of hyperspace at the system's edge, their sensors began scanning for the human homeworld's defenses. What they found made no sense. Earth looked exactly as it had during first contact. Green and blue, covered with cities and farmland, with light civilian traffic moving between the inner planets. A small defense fleet orbited the world, maybe 30 ships total. For a species that had supposedly been hiding military assets everywhere, their home world looked almost defenseless. "This has to be another trick," said Supreme Admiral Korthran, overall commander of the coalition forces. Scan everything. Look for hidden weapons, disguised ships, anything that seems unusual. The scans revealed nothing threatening. Earth's orbital stations were civilian structures. The defense fleet consisted of ships barely larger than the ones they had seen at first contact. The planet's surface showed cities, not fortresses. Perhaps their deception only worked in the colonies, suggested the Vorthan fleet commander. Maybe their homeworld really is peaceful. Admiral Korthron studied the tactical displays. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't identify what. Signal the human defense fleet. Demand immediate surrender of the planet. The response came from a human woman aboard the largest defending ship. She appeared on the main screen wearing a clean military uniform with Admiral's insignia. Unlike the farmers and merchants they had encountered before, she made no attempt to hide what she was. "This is Admiral Janet Chen of the Earth Defense Force," she said calmly. "You are approaching our homeworld with a hostile fleet. State your intentions." "I am Supreme Admiral Korthron," replied the alien commander. "By authority of the Galactic Federation, you will surrender your planet for inspection and occupation. Your species has violated galactic peace through military deception." Admiral Chen's expression didn't change. "Admiral, I'm afraid that won't be possible. This is our home. We will defend it." "You have 30 ships," Korthran pointed out. "We have over 200. Surrender now and spare your people unnecessary suffering." "Admiral," Chen said quietly, "you've made the same mistake others have made. You're looking at this all wrong." "What do you mean?" "You see 30 ships and think we're outnumbered. But those aren't the only ships in this system." As if her words were a signal, the space around Earth began to change. What had appeared to be civilian stations suddenly revealed weapons that had been hidden in plain sight. Orbital habitats opened to release squadrons of fighters. Mining platforms in the asteroid belt powered up military-grade engines and weapon systems. But the real shock came when the planets themselves began to move. Mars, Venus, even the moons of Jupiter started launching vessels that had been concealed beneath their surfaces or hidden among seemingly innocent installations. "By the void," whispered Admiral Korthran as his tactical display filled with new contacts. "The entire system is armed. Every asteroid had been turned into a weapon platform. Every moon was a military base. Every space station was a disguised fortress. The peaceful solar system was revealed as the most heavily defended position in known space." "You see, Admiral," Chen continued, "Earth didn't hide its military from you. Earth is our military. This entire star system is our fortress, our shipyard, our command center. When we told you we valued peace, we meant it. But we also know that peace must be protected by those willing to fight for it." The coalition fleet found itself facing not 30 ships, but over 1,000. Human vessels emerged from hiding spots throughout the solar system, each one revealing capabilities far beyond what the aliens had imagined possible. "This is impossible," said Korthron. "Our intelligence showed civilian populations, peaceful cities." "And those are real too," Chen replied. "Our people live here, work here, raise their families here. But they also understand that freedom isn't free. Every citizen knows their role in our defense. Every structure serves dual purposes. We built our entire civilization around the idea that we would never again be helpless when threatened." The alien admiral realized the horrible truth. Humanity hadn't been hiding their military strength behind a peaceful facade. Their entire society was military strength, organized around the principle that every person, every resource, every piece of technology existed to protect human freedom. "Admiral Chen," Korthran said slowly, "what do you want from the galaxy?" "The same thing we've always wanted," she replied. "To be left alone to live our lives in peace. We explored space looking for new homes, new knowledge, new friends. We found people who saw kindness as weakness and peace as an invitation to conquest. On the screen behind her, Earth turned slowly in space. But now the aliens could see it for what it truly was. A blue marble wrapped in defensive rings, protected by technology they couldn't comprehend, defended by people who had decided that the best way to preserve peace was to make war too costly to consider. "We gave you the chance to be our friends," Chen continued. "We showed you our art, our science, our hopes for the future. You chose to see us as prey instead of partners. That was your mistake, not ours." Admiral Corthran looked at his fleet, now surrounded and outgunned by forces that had appeared from nowhere. "What happens now?" "Now you go home," said Chen simply. "You tell your governments that humanity is not available for conquest or domination. We're willing to trade, to share knowledge, to help solve common problems. But we will not be anyone's subjects or servants. And if we refuse?" Admiral Chen's smile was gentle, but her eyes were steel. "Admiral, you're surrounded by the combined military might of a species that fought its way across dozens of star systems before we ever met you. We've been preparing for this conversation for 6 months. The question isn't what happens if you refuse. The question is whether you're smart enough to avoid making us prove what we're capable of." The Coalition fleet withdrew that day without firing a shot. Within weeks, new treaties were signed recognizing humanity as an independent power with full rights and protections. The galaxy learned to approach humans with respect rather than condescension. Ambassador Sarah Chen resumed her diplomatic duties. But now she spoke as an equal, representing a people the galaxy finally understood. The age of human helplessness was over, and the age of human strength had begun. In the colonies, farmers went back to their fields, and miners returned to their work. But everyone remembered what they had proven to the stars, that strength and peace could